Alright, so today we're doing a tier list video. I know I typically only upload like duels, occasional brawls, occasional fours, but I've always wanted to do a tier list video and I figured, why not? I do have a decent amount of knowledge in this game. I've been playing it for about 5.5 years. I do play a lot more duels and brawls and I do play fours. Eventually I will do a fours list, but as of right now I am only going to be sticking with the duels tier list. But yeah, maybe I will do a fours list sometime later on. Alright, now let's get this tier list moving. Musha, a character with a really cool pommel bop from jumping top heavy and neutral heavies, almost unreactable soft feints, a very easy to access full guard, and some of the best damage in the game. What makes Musha so tricky is his recovery to his all guard. If you don't make the right read or don't have a dodge bash, Musha can easily full guard your dodge light or heavy and punish you for making the wrong read. That and his ability to wall splat you with a full guard kick makes you have to think about your positioning before you just start attacking. If Musha gets into his heavy chains and you think a soft feint is coming but he likes to finish your heavy fly, you're gonna hit with 30 raw damage, which is some pretty big damage after the core combat update. On top of that, with an unguard breakable dodge heavy, you really have to make the right read before either guard breaking or letting the heavy fly if you don't have recoveries yourself. All that being said, I would put Musha in A tier. That may change depending on where I put everybody else, but as of right now, Musha is gonna sit at the top of A tier. Okay, next we have Berserker, one of the best duelists in this game. Can't run for Berserker because he does have that jumping top heavy and the jumping forward light. Undodgeable side lights, an insane deflect that you can pretty much counteract everybody's attack with. Some of the best hyper armor, if not the best hyper armor in the game. Unreactable heavy to light feints, and also the top unblockable is so easy to access. Just backstep light and you're unblockable with hyper armor. Let it fly. If someone does dodge it, you do have insane dodge light recoveries, which does make him a little bit annoying. Berserker is all around one of the best duelists in this game. I would say his easy access to his hyper armor as well as the damage and the unblockable, your inability to run from Berserker, and his deflect being the best deflect in the game for stopping every bit of hyper armor, and it also can't be flipped by block prior, does make Berserker probably, in my opinion, the best assassin in this game. His damage values are nuts, as well as his health buff, as well as his zone light pretty much being unreactable. I've never reacted to one before, it's all pretty much just a guess. Lets him go right into his chain, uses less stamina. All that being said, I am going to put Berserker in S tier. I think he is an S tier duelist. I don't see him moving down. Maybe his placement in S will go down. There'll be some people that are better in S tier than him, but there's no doubt that he is an S tier duelist in this game. The Roman T-Rex Arm King. I will say Centurion, with his tracking and hyper armor buff for his charged punch, does kind of make him a little bit more viable with the dodge light. But Centurion, ever since he came out, was one of the best heroes. He was the best hero in the game when he came out, but he did have a small fall from grace with some nerfs, obviously, deserved nerfs. But right now, Centurion is just a decent hero. I would say he is a better force hero than he is a duelist. More flickers, but you can feint the zone, which is awesome, and the unblockable is soft feintable, which is beautiful for his kit. The dodge light does allow him to dodge attacks now without having to be guard broken. You can get hit by it, which is awesome now for him. His forward tracking on his dodge heavy does make him a little bit more scary because sometimes you just don't think it's going to hit you. The kick is a little slow and it's a little reactable in my opinion. It is a little too easy to read in my opinion. I think if they sped it up, that would be really nice for Centurion's kit. His lights aren't the fastest, but they can trick you up every once in a while, especially with a heavy or a charged heavy at the end. Does make him a little bit of a guessing game with the variable timed attacks. With the stamina buff to everybody being able to get up when they do get knocked down, that does kind of make Centurion's out of stam punish, only his Eagle's Talon, but it's still great damage. Better in fours because people can get heavies if you time it right. But Centurion is just a good middle of the line duelist. I would say Centurion used to be better and isn't as good as some heroes due to his fact of not having an undodgeable, but you know what, not everybody needs an undodgeable to be effective. I would say again, Centurion is a better force character than he is a duels character, but he is not the worst duels character in the game. I am going to put Centurion into B tier just because he's not bad and he's not the best. Now, obviously, it just depends on the player, if they are a parry god or if they are hugging a wall. With those triple head punches, as well as being able to kick after that for some good stamina damage, does make Centurion a little bit more scary. Having a wall nearby is super situational, so I can't, again, put him any higher just because of that fact. Now, having a wall by or just being a good parry god with Centurion does make you better, but does not make the hero better. So for now, Centurion is going to sit at the top of B tier. Oh boy, Conqueror. Just a hero full of orange. I don't really have to say a whole lot about Conqueror. Conqueror is one of the best duelists, not the best force hero, just because his anti-gank and his forward momentum and his ability to catch is pretty bad. But in a one setting, just the bash, the ability to feint his chain bash, the unblockable pressure, the delayed light pressure, as well as the out of stand pressure, being able to deflect with superior dodges into your attack to counteract any of your undodgeables if he does guess on a dodge, which does make him really annoying. His all guard doing less damage does kind of suck because that was always my favorite thing, and his zone did get a nerf. It is not a very good zone at all now, but I mean, no one really throws zones with Conqueror anymore, but he's just a very orange character, just a guessing game, and his easy access to damage, able to execute on bash, does make him really annoying. All that being said, Conqueror is a very easy S tier hero, and I am actually going to put him above Berserker in the duels tier list. The Edgelord of For Honor, one of my favorite characters, just in terms of design alone. Now, before all the dodge light buffs, I would say Blackbriar would have been a little bit lower, but being able to just chain into everything after the dodge light does make him really scary. Crushing counters, a flip that does flip literally everything except for Berserker's deflect, a crazy delayed bash, as well as a good bash for damage. His zone is great. His soft feint heavy to bash isn't the best, you don't really see people use it, but it is a decent opener if you do use it as an opener. Undodgeables that clip for so much damage that do chain into his unblockable and into his flip. His unblockable, being able to sit in all guard with the guard break changes and throw an unblockable into your undodgeables does make him a nightmare to fight. Blackbriar is just one of the best duelists in this game. I would say he's a better force character just because you can pretty much stall forever with Blackbriar with this shield glitch, as well as being able to flip everybody. But he is a very solid duelist with all that being said with his kit, so I am going to put Blackbriar in A tier right behind Aramusha. Alright, next up we got Pirate, the most annoying hero this game has ever made. Pirate has got an insane unblockable opener that has the worst soft feint GB animation I've ever seen. You get the heavy off the guard break, go right into the skewer that can't be option selected. That can also be soft feinted to another GB. She also has undodgeable light follow-ups, an insane amount of iframes on her dodge heavy that can be followed up with the pistol blast. If the dodge heavy is blocked, she does get a pistol grab move that you can dodge, which is nice. Pirate doesn't take a whole lot of skill. She really just has like unblockable, pistol shot, undodgeable, unblockable, soft feint, pistol shot. You know, it's just like the same stuff over and over again. Dodge heavy, pistol shot, undodgeable. She has a decent bit of hyper armor on her heavies. Heavy, the second heavy will get hyper armor, light heavy, the heavy gets hyper armor into the pistol shot. If the heavy is blocked, she can't do the pistol grab again, but really she is a brain dead hero. She is, again, just a top tier character in this game. I think one of the most annoying heroes in this game. I wouldn't say the worst in terms of like the character isn't good, but the character is the worst in terms of she is the most annoying character I've ever seen in this game. But bias aside, this character is a monster, and she is definitely gonna have to go at the top of S tier above Conqueror and Berserker. My favorite Roman in this entire game. Now, it is a little unfortunate that his toe stab does not knock you out anymore, but that was super impressive, and with the stamina changes to this game, it really just doesn't matter all that much. A jumping top light that is super easy to parry, but his chain lights with delay are nuts. A dodge punch that is a counter to pretty much a lot of the hyper armor in this game, which is amazing. The insane bleed damage on the skewer. You can't do the jumping top light to follow the chain anymore, but that is alright. His toe stab is great for continuing his chain with the unblockable or delayed heavy, and the one great thing about his toe stab is that it does reset the fight to neutral. You toe stab somebody and they do go backwards and they cannot bash you, so it puts you back to a neutral distance, a good distance, which is great for Gladiator. His zone is fantastic for mix-up potential. If you do miss it, you can feint it, you can let it fly depending on if the character has a fast enough dodge. You can feint it, dodge out of it, feint it, parry, it's fantastic. The one small thing to Gladiator is that his punches do not guarantee any damage, but you can flow easily into your unblockable, so it might as well guarantee damage. His out of stand punish is one of the best in the game. Skewer with bleed, throw to the ground, 2 heavies. His skewer and his deflect do let you throw people into walls, which is great for his chain. You can just continue damage constantly if you're able to land those, which is super scary. I am going to put Gladiator right now at the top of A tier. Now, he might move up depending on how I'm feeling, but as of right now, Gladiator is the top of A tier because I do not think he is as good as these 3 characters, but if he is just outshining the class on A tier, then I will move him up. But as of right now, Gladiator is the best pick in A tier. The character that stole pretty much everybody's animations. Highlander, Zhang Jun, Lawbringer. Griffin isn't as good as he used to be, but Griffin is still a very promising duelist. No unblockables, but you really don't need them. He does have undodgeables, he does have a good opener bash, a great kick, good sweeping attacks, good hyper armor, and also to say some of the best fashion in this game. Fashion does not move you up or down on this tier list, but it is worth mentioning that Griffin does have some great fashion. His kick is super scary, because if it does land, that is a lot of damage for him. He also does have a heavy attack with hyper armor that clips almost everybody. Now, depending on how good your iframes are, it will miss, but you can feint it for a guard break for great damage that goes right into his chain again. His opening bash is great for pressure. It's just a better Lawbringer's bash. And his dodge heavy is one of the best dodge heavies in this game. Sometimes for me, I just can't parry it for some reason because my brain just shuts off. It chains perfectly into his kick, and it does chain perfectly into his undodgeable and heavy hyper armor attack. I would say Griffin is a better force character just because of his pressure and his feats as a paladin, but he is not a bad duelist. I am going to put Griffin above Centurion at the top of B. Again, these aren't permanent placements, but as of right now, Griffin is going to be above Centurion at the top of B. Done My Glass, the Thailander, the man with the thick thighs in For Honor. One of the best heroes to drop when he did come out. One of the best character designs in general in this game. Highlander did get that dodge heavy buff, which is great for him. Not the best iframes in the game, but it is still great for him as an option. Does let him flow right into his offensive stance. Highlander having crushing counters, great lights, they're almost unreactable in the chain when they are delayed, with hyper armor, as well as a hyper armor heavy finisher. Highlander is one of those skill curved characters. If you are kind of bad with Highlander, he is very easily punished, but if you are great at wave riding, which is a very old tech, which is in his offensive stance where you switch guards and you dodge left and right, makes him incredibly scary. His kick to caber is a great mix-up attack. His ability to have phantom range, if you do know how to use that, does make him a little bit scary with those high damage unblockables. Highlander's Celtic Curse is one of the most fun animations in this game. Not the best, but you can hold it to get into his offensive stance, and you can delay dodge to dodge attacks, which does get pretty spicy. His offensive stance is fantastic. Regular kick to caber, unblockable to kick, unblockable to caber, unblockable to kick to caber. Pretty much unreactable offensive light attacks that don't do too much damage, but when you can get off like 6 in a row for 9 damage, it does add up. The one downside to Highlander is that he is meant to be dodging in his offensive stance, but with a lot of the cast having undodgeable attacks, it does kind of make him a little bit bad because you have to make the right read to exit offensive stance to get the parry or crushing counter, which is very difficult. Highlander is not a new player-friendly hero. He is a character that, if you do have high game knowledge or are just very good at this game, he is going to be deadly. Even then, Highlander is a very hard character to get into. All that being said, I am unfortunately going to put Highlander in C tier, which does suck because Highlander is one of my favorite characters. I did main him on Xbox quite a lot, but as of right now, Highlander is going to sit at the top of C tier. Jormungandr, the Nut Slammer. Jormungandr's dodge light buff is great for Jormungandr, but it is not the best sleight attack in this game. Jorm is getting a rework, which is going to be fantastic, but as of right now, Jorm can be kind of a menace. Again, a better force character, just with the almost inability to die and stall with getting shield on hammer slams, popping revenge, getting easily into hammer slam if somebody does hit you. His 4th feet able to just slam everybody if you're in the radius. It is a little slow. I feel like if it was a little bit faster, it would be better. But again, this is a dual tier list, but Jorm isn't as good as a ones character as he or she is a force character. The one redeeming quality to Jorm is the out of stam punishes. If you are able to land the unblockable out of stamina as well as the hammer slam, you are in for a world of hurt. The one cool thing that I do like about Jorm is the unblockable into wall splat, which is great for damage. Jorm doesn't have too much hyper armor. She does have Warlord and Highlander hyper armor where it is delayed, but one great thing about Jorm is the fact that she does have an undodgeable light that is really annoying. But also one thing that does suck about Jorm is she does not have any guaranteed bash damage. I am going to put Jorm below Highlander in C tier, just because she doesn't have the best pressure, and she is easily moved around and outclassed by the characters above her. Kensei, the dad of the For Honor community. Kensei just isn't as good as he used to be. Even then, back then, he wasn't the best pick. I will say now with the CCU and delayed indicators, his lights are very tough to deal with. But I think Kensei could just use some quality of life tweaks. I would not like a rework specifically for Kensei, but some quality of life changes would be great. His zone attack is fantastic. It has a lot of reach and a lot of clip. His dodge heavies aren't the best, but they do flow great into his unblockable and his heavies, which are really slow, but sometimes they're just so slow that they're perfect. He does have hyper armor, light follow-ups, as well as heavy follow-ups that are pretty devastating for damage. Kensei does have a bash. It is his top soft feint Pommel Bop, but it is incredibly slow. But Kensei's easy access to his unblockable, as well as his very, very good light spam and heavy follow-ups to mix up your opponents if they are light parry hungry demons, does make Kensei, in my opinion, a B tier hero. He is the worst character in B tier, but I am going to put him above Highlander and Yorm in terms of ones. For Honor's pretty boy Kyoshin, a very, very easy character to get into. One of my favorite characters personally. I think the Kaze stance is beautiful. He is on the same level as Aramusha in terms of his all guard recovery, although I will say that Aramusha's all guard is not as good as Kyoshin's. Kyoshin does get 4 slashes at low damage. His Kaze stance is obviously better in 4s with the feats, being able to heal and also bleed people from the slashes, but they're still very good in duels. He is able to throw a zone. He is able to throw a light as well as an unblockable that does have a weird amount of forward tracking, so you can't dodge roll away from that. He also does have a chain bash, an opening kick bash that can be delayed a lot, as well as a jumping forward top heavy to catch people. Kyoshin does have crushing counters, which does help him a lot for defensive purposes. He has a dodge heavy that allows him to flow immediately into his Kaze. He has undodgeable light follow-ups as well as undodgeable heavy follow-ups that do 30 damage, which is insane. That allows him to flow straight into his Kaze stance again. With all that being said, I am going to put Kyoshin right above Aramusha. I do think that he is just a little bit better in terms of being able to sit in his all guard a little bit longer, but they both have insane recoveries. He is able to recover into his Kaze stance after every single attack that he has. Alright, now we're on to Lawbringer. There really isn't much to say. I want to make this one kind of quick. Lawbringer has no openers, no chain pressure, terrible opening bash, no double lights, takes forever to get into his unblockable chain. The one good thing about Lawbringer is that he does have insane parry punishes, but you do have to be a parry god for that. Other than that, Lawbringer is going to be bottom of the barrel D tier. Next, we got Nobu, one of my most hated characters to fight because I just can't fight her. She does have insane iframes on her kick, follow-up light now, as well as all of her dodge lights, and then also dodge heavies. Her chain pressure with all the mix-ups from lights in different directions is just a barrage of bleed. It is very tough to deal with, as well as the undodgeables, and then the kick makes her a goddamn menace. That damage is cracked when she starts getting bleed in heavies, and then a wall splat potential, if you're near a wall, if she does kick you, is insane. Ibushi is definitely deserving of the A tiers, but she is going to go behind every character here because I do think she is just a tad bit worse without like an unblockable, but again, she doesn't really need one. Still A tier, just not as good as these characters here. Orochi is just a goddamn menace. This guy has undodgeable lights, kind of slow, easy to parry, easy to bait out, but his heavy finishers, left, right, and top being unblockable, left and right being not unblockable, but fast as shit. His backup light, fast as hell. Forward dodge light, no undodgeable properties, but still good when you're in somebody's face. Orochi just has some of the best forward pressure in this game, just forward momentum with the kick and the Storm Rush. Storm Rush is a little bit slow. You can trade with Hyper Armor. If the Orochi has somewhat of a brain, he can just stop and then parry or guard break. But no doubt in my mind that Orochi is just the top of A tier. Another quick one I'm just going to go by is Peacekeeper. Very awesome design. I love the fact that you can go into your unblockables when someone's bleeding. She has a good amount of bleed. A lot of ways to get into her bleed as well. They did nerf her kidney stab, but 38 damage was ridiculous. But she just really doesn't have any pressure, and she really doesn't have much other than some soft feints. If you have any bash, any hyper armor, you're pretty much just going to tank through PK. She doesn't do enough damage fast enough to keep up with all the other heroes. Not the worst assassin in the game, but she's going to go bottom of the barrel and D tier, right behind Lawbringer. Another one I don't have to say much about, we all know about Raider. Raider has insane sweeping heavies, unreactable storming tap, a great unblockables that can soft feint into everything, heavies that soft feint into everything with hyper armor. Raider has just some of the best combos in the game with delayed lights and everything too. Raider is definitely going in as right behind Pirate. I still do think Pirate is a better hero than Raider, but Raider is definitely better than these two right behind him. Another edgelord in the For Honor lore, Itukiri. A very straightforward character, a lot of variable timed heavies, unblockables with great hyper armor, light follow-ups that do have hyper armor as well. Two different kicks, one that comes out right away, one that is swept and held. You can feint into kick to guard break, which is a really nice mix-up for Hitokiri. He also does have a dodge heavy that can go right into his heavies, that can go right into his kicks, and can also go right into his unblockables, which is very, very good for his kit just to keep pressure going constantly with like the kicks and unblockables. Hitukiri is definitely deserving of an A tier spot. He's going to go right between BP and Nobu. I don't think he is as good as the characters in front of him, but he is miles ahead of Nobushi. Shaman with her new buff is a goddamn monster. Her unblockable not being able to be option selected, as well as her bleed from all different sides, from heavy soft feints, from zone soft feints. She gets a bite off any bit of bleed. She can also bite you off light parries if you are bleeding, and she also can heal once you're bleeding. Her bite also does insane damage. She can bleed you pretty much everything in her kit, as well as her deflect. And her dodge heavy doesn't allow her to be guard broken. She is definitely deserving of an S tier spot, and I would say she is the worst of the S tier so far, but that does not make her a bad character. She is just not as good as the characters in front of her. Oh, Shinobi. This character has everything bar deflect and an all guard. Literally just the most pressure in the game that I've ever seen. Iframes for days, undodgeables that go into unblockables, kicks everywhere. Dodge kicks, rolling forward kicks, backflip with iframes, undodgeables pretty much in all of his kit, deflects that go into a kick, or an undodgeable that you can feint and let fly. Shinobi is better than Orochi when it comes to forward momentum and just forward pressure, just the constant damage that he can apply. Shinobi still, to this day, you have to play at a Shinobi's pace. And I'm definitely going to put Shinobi right in front of Raider. And Shinobi will beat Raider pretty much most of the time because Shinobi can stop Raider's hyper armor pretty easily. The diabetic of the For Honor community, Shugoki. Shugoki is really annoying. He does have that headbutt with iframes, variable timed heavies, instant hyper armor on pretty much all of his attacks, insane damage, a good guard break that will launch you across the map, and his Demon's Embrace does let him get health back. Shugoki's always a tough matchup for me, just because Shugoki's lights are really difficult for me to parry, and I really don't know why. But Shugoki is definitely deserving of an A tier spot. I don't think he's the best in A tier. I will say he's pretty much better than everyone else behind him here. Orochi still is a bit better of a character though. Senhu is just a guessing game hero. There's really not a whole lot to say about him. He does have a good bash, superior dodges, undodgeable zone attack, unblockable light and heavy, and his dodge attacks can be light and heavy, and they both come in different directions. So he's just a guessing game hero, very beginner-friendly character. I would not say he's S or A or C or D. He's just a good middle-of-the-line character. If you are new to the game or you just like a good guessing game hero just to fuck around with, Senhu is definitely top of the B tier characters so far. Medjai, a character that I was more excited for when he came out, kind of was disappointed in his kit. He does have an axe form that allows him to bash really fast, also gets into his blockable really quickly. He does have a dodge heavy in his axe form, but it just doesn't seem to have very good iframes. What you end up mostly doing with Medjai in axe form is just bash lighting a lot and then just going to your unblockable. His staff form is my favorite though because it is a little bit slower and methodical. He does have enhanced lights in his chains with a lot of hyper armor. That bash is not good for ones. It is mostly a ganking tool, but it can land from here and there. I've had it land. Again, it's another character that you can just kind of spam with and get away with a lot. His dodge heavy in his staff form is really nice. It does even have a lot more iframes and does chain very nicely into his kit in staff form. And I would say so far that Medjai is now the best character in B tier. Character that is getting her rework fairly soon. Valkyrie right now is not very good. Her all guard's kind of bad. She does the crushing counters, a nice shoulder pin, sweeping finisher heavies that do clip pretty often. She does have a very nice finisher light that does wall splat, but you can dodge it so easily. Valkyrie is a character that does require a little bit more skill and a little bit more brain power. And right now, I will say that she is in front of Yorm, but she is not better than Highlander. I will say Highlander does outclass Valkyrie pretty hard. Valkyrie does have very good damage though on her finisher heavies, I will say that, but she is going to be in the middle of C. Warden is a day one character that has always just really been about shoulder bashing, never really been about sword play. That's everybody's kind of gripe with Warden. Warden did get that buff with his zone for stamina and then the standardized lights on opposite sides just to kill a little bit faster. He does also have guaranteed double edge just like Shaman does. Warden mainly is just an orange character again, a lot of shoulder bashing, a lot of unblockables, feinting the guard break, but his damage is nice. And his shoulder bash mix-up can be fun when you start getting the feints and guard breaks in and they start landing. That crushing counter is beautiful to land, but it does not land very often because it is very easily baited out. But I will put Warden in B tier because he's always been a very user-friendly character, again, someone that's very easy to play when you first get into the game. I will say that he goes in between Centurion and Kensei here, and he's just not as good as the characters that are in front of him, but better than Kensei. Willard is one of the best duelists in this game. Just unreactable headbutt, enhanced lights, great damage, great hyper armor in his chains, the delayed hyper armor at the end of his heavies. Willard does have that nice all guard, lets you headbutt out of it, light out of it, undodgeable heavy out of it, as well as an undodgeable zone that is really slow, but will clip people if they do dodge and you fake out the headbutt. Willard's headbutt makes him a goddamn monster, and I'm actually gonna put him in A tier. I'm going to put him right here in between Orochi and Shigoki because I do think that he is better than pretty much everyone here. He majority of the time will win against these characters that are behind him, but again, Orochi just has that forward pressure that is really tough to deal with. The character with a hero fest revolved around her right now, Warmonger, War Mommy, the mommy of the community. She did get the change where her bashes bleed. Most people do say that they will die slower because of that bleed, but chip damage will play a part in there, which is super nice for whittling people down. Warmonger does have that dodge forward undodgeable that lets you catch roll catchers, have an impale on heavy parries that does wall swat if you're close enough for bleed, they can go right into her chain. Her zone is incredibly quick, but it does not hit very often. She does have an unblockable, but it's a dodge unblockable, and it is super slow and has absolutely no iframes. Warmonger is going to go in here in B tier. I think that she is a good middle of the line character, just like Warden, a bit better than Warden. That's why I'm going to put her in between Griffin and Centurion. Again, Centurion will have more of a hard time fighting Warmonger with those delayed attacks. With these characters, again, in B ahead of her are just going to beat her majority of the time again. JJ has absolutely everything. Unblockable from Sifu's, unblockable follow-ups that are able to be soft feinted into GB's, into Sifu's poise. He is really hard to touch. The one negative downside to JJ is his guard break vulnerability from his dodge attacks. It can be soft feinted from heavy to light or stopped for a guard break, but you can really guard break him like 3/4 into that animation, which does really suck for JJ. I will say JJ is definitely an S tier character, but he is just not better than Shinobi. I will say that. Shinobi with those undodgeables and the ability to feint the undodgeables and unblockables into the guard break. So JJ is going to be in S tier, just not the best in S tier. Not really much to say about Nusha here. Nusha is a very outdated character. Very nice trap mechanic. I think it's very unique to the character and probably one of the most unique attacks in the game left. But she just isn't very good. I'm definitely going to put her at the bottom of the barrel. There's not much to say about her. She doesn't really have anything. Her damage is very nice, I will say that. But that deflect being able to be parried and crushed and countered and also deflected, it's just so weird in For Honor's current meta and current playstyle. She is definitely going to be at the bottom of the barrel. She is probably the worst character in For Honor right now. Shaolin, after his rework, is super annoying, but is very fun to play. Not very fun to play against. He does have the sweep, the cheese stance, triple lights, crushing counters from his cheese stance, undodgeables that go straight into his sweep chain. You can feint the sweep into a guard break. He does have a kick opener. He also does have a kick from his cheese stance that allows a top light into his chain for sweeps. If you do miss a kick, you can follow up with a light or a heavy that can be feinted into a guard break or let go for people that think that the light is coming out. This pressure is way better than everybody's in A tier, and he's going to sit in A tier as the best character here. I do think that he does play a lot better than Orochi. His deflect isn't as good, but his forward pressure is very threatening. And last but not least, we do have Tiandi, a character with the rework again coming out. Right now, Tiandi does have his dodge heavies, but they're really slow, and it's kind of hard to dodge really anything with how fast people's attacks are nowadays. He does have a dragon kick that does not guarantee any damage unless he's close enough to a wall. His zone is pretty much his opener. It is very fast, but very predictable and easy to bait out. He does have very nice dodge lights that can be soft feinted from his dragon kick. His dodgeable lights do have crushing counter properties. They're very weird and not like deflects. Not right when it's about to hit you. Tiandi is not a bad character. I do think that he is right now the most balanced character in the game right now. Tiandi's can be very irritating to fight, but if you just have any bit of hyper armor or an all guard, he's really not that threatening. Tiandi's palm strike is really nice because you can follow up with a heavy with hyper armor, just like Shaolin can follow up with the heavy or the light after missing his kick with cheese stance. But I will say that Tiandi is going to sit at the top of C tier. He is better than everybody behind him, but he is nowhere near as good as anybody above him. Thank you for tuning into my tier list. I know that you might not agree with my tier list, and if you disagree with anything, you can always comment. But again, it is my tier list, it is my opinion. But if you have any differentiating opinions, feel free to comment. But don't get too tilted with my tier list if you don't like it. Again, this is mine. You can always make your own and let me know what you did with yours. Alright, I'm out of here.
Incredibile!